You are now entering Module 3, Chapter 12, Handling Problems, Conflicts, and Mistakes. Please review this section and complete the assignment with a minimum score of 80%.
In this unit, we will discuss various successful methods to handle conflict, deal with citizen complaints, and recommend and advise policies. We'll also discuss the implementation of policies as well as describe the difference between customer services and customer satisfaction. Before you resolve a problem or make recommendations for a policy or procedure change, you have to identify the problem. The problem may or may not be obvious. Sometimes the resolution or change is very minor and will not require a lot of work, but oftentimes the resolution to the problem will require a lot of thoughtful consideration. For example, during an emergency extrication, your extrication tool suddenly stops working. In order to complete the extrication, you must troubleshoot and resolve the problem preventing its operation. It may be as simple as needing fuel or requiring more in-depth special problem-solving skills. The problem might also stem from the operator error, lack of preventative maintenance, or a training issue. During a non-emergency situation, such as a disagreement between two members of the agency, it will require a different set of problem-solving skills to address the concerns of each member and help them resolve their differences. When addressing a problem, you will use a variety of decision-making skills which will be guided by a number of factors. These factors include organizational values. These are the values of your organization feels are vital for the success and prosperity of that agency, locality, and its citizens. These values include ethics, morals, honesty, and integrity. Guidelines, policies, and procedures. These are operational guidelines of the agency which sets the standards for the organization to follow. Examples include seatbelt usage, use of cell phone cameras on a call, release as an AIC, or dealing with a citizen complaint, and so forth. A complaint will often result when a patient, family member, or even a bystander has observed an incident which has aggravated them to the point where their grief, anger, or resentment has pushed them to the point where they will file a complaint against the agency member or the agency at large. Failure to address these concerns in a timely manner will result in continued frustration by the complainant and could ultimately become a public relations nightmare for that agency. No one is infallible, and as a result, mistakes will occur. These mistakes can be result from bad judgment, deficient knowledge, or carelessness. When mistakes occur in the station, few people will be involved. But think about those situations when a mistake occurs on a major incident and is witnessed by a number of bystanders or captured on video by the media. Perhaps a crew member's comment about a confidential patient matter is overheard by a citizen or the patient's family. How your agency's leadership responds to the situation can result in a variety of outcomes, from minor to catastrophic. There will always be the possibility that a citizen will file a complaint about a perceived violation of trust by members of the department. This violation of trust may be the result of a simple misunderstanding or a major issue such as refusing to provide care to an ill or injured patient. When this occurs, the EMS officer is required to address the issue as quickly and as proficiently as possible. It will take a lot of tact and diplomacy on the officer's part to resolve these concerns to the complainant's satisfaction. It is always a good idea to have a plan when you sit down to address a problem. Here are your steps for the general decision making. Of course, the first step is to identify your problem. You cannot fix a problem if you don't know what the problem is. Once you understand the problem, then you begin to develop and consider alternative solutions of how to address the problem. Once the best solution has been selected, you need to implement the solution and evaluate the outcome. If you find that your initial solution is not effective, reconsider the issues and alternative solutions and adjust. When you are defining the problem, you must be willing to get, quote, down and dirty to get all the details. the good, the bad, and the ugly, in order to ensure all details about the event have been uncovered and are available for review. This might include some or all of the following: written statements from everyone involved in the situation, copies of patient care reports, maintenance records, and/or current policies and procedures. During this discussion, the EMS officer must demonstrate that he or she can be trusted to listen to all sides of the argument before rendering a decision. As with most relationships, both on and off the job, it is important to ensure that everyone trusts the EMS officer not to make a hasty decision until everyone has heard about the details of the situation. No one will be willing to open up their feelings during this discussion if they feel the EMS officer will not maintain an unbiased attitude toward everyone involved. It is not an easy task, but the results are very rewarding when everyone feels validated. One of the hardest things people sometimes have trouble doing is to report when something goes wrong to a supervisor. No one likes to be the bearer of bad news. It is for this reason especially that the EMS officer needs to work diligently every day to create a work environment where people feel empowered to make good decisions when faced with adverse situations and to report bad news and failures as soon as they occur. You will learn more on this topic later when we discuss near miss reporting. One way to determine an alternative solution to a problem is to spend some time brainstorming possible responses to an issue. This is done by including everyone who has some knowledge about the problem. There are no good real ground rules to brainstorming an issue except to give everyone an equal opportunity to offer suggestions on how to deal with problems without being chastised for their ideas. This process may or may not include the senior leadership of the agency depending on the situation. The decision is usually left to the senior leaders of the level of their involvement. Senior leadership may decide not to participate to allow the members feel more comfortable in sharing their ideas. The key factor in a brainstorming process is that participants feel the process is legitimate and their efforts will be validated. When trying to solve a problem, it may help to use brainstorming technique. Using an easel chart, whiteboard, or chalkboard, having a scribe write all the ideas on the board. Give the group a time limit such as 10 to 20 minutes to generate their ideas. Encourage everyone to also list alternative ideas as well. Remember, there are no right or wrong ideas. After your 20-minute time limit, allowing the group to identify the top 5 ideas which they like best. At this point, list the criteria for selecting the best solution to your problem. Now, based on that criteria, have everyone evaluate and rate the top listed solutions. Using the scale of 0 to 5, add up the scores for each idea, and the solution with the highest score should be the best choice for implementation. After defining the problem, the EMS officer will need to select a solution. What is a core value of your agency? If your involvement in your community is a major concern for your agency, then that is a core value. Any solution you select to solve a problem will take that core value into consideration. For more information on the importance of core values, read Stephen Covey's text on the subject. Implementation can be the most challenging aspect of problem solving. Every solution you choose to utilize should have an implementation plan with a deadline. Your solution should also include who will do what and by when. Any solution which does not identify an implementation date will wither and die on the vine, so to speak. While you may not meet the deadline for implementation due to various roadblocks, it is imperative that you set a date and then revise the plan as necessary. After implementation of the solution, the EMS officer must assess whether it produces the desired results. Few solutions will work perfectly the first time, so you may need to make some modifications to your plans or even select another option. You may need to re-engage the original committee to review the process and obtain their thoughts and feedback on the results of the process. Determining whether the solution actually solved the problem requires some type of measurement that compares the original condition with the condition after the implementation. These solutions should always be held one-on-one in a quiet area, such as an office, where they can have some privacy and not be disturbed by as many distractions. As noted earlier in this module, we discussed issues with an EMS officer might need to address or reduce or eliminate a conflict within the organization. One factor that distinguishes an EMS officer from a provider is the responsibility to act as an agent of the formal agency. You are the first level representative of the EMS chief when dealing with subordinates and enforcing policies and procedures. These conflicts might be between coworkers, the work environment, an agency policy or procedure, or even the behavior, actions, or decisions of the EMS officer. Not everyone will like your chosen solution. Be prepared to manage conflict. The conflict resolution model requires the EMS officer to be an active listener while taking detailed notes. This will allow you to gather as much information as possible about the conflict. As the EMS officer, you should make every attempt to actively listen. Active listening is the conscious process of securing all kinds of information through a combination of listening and observing. You must give your full attention. It is very important that the officer provide feedback and paraphrase the discussion to ensure that they have received the information appropriately. Be sure to avoid providing an explanation or an excuse. When you investigate the complaint, no matter what your personal feelings may be, you must always gather all the facts. This includes information from everyone involved. Once the investigation is complete, a final report should be prepared which identifies and clearly explains all of the issues. This will also include complete background information on the issue as well as provide recommended action plan. Once the investigation is completed, the EMS officer will present the final report to their supervisor, who can take one of four possible actions. If the investigation shows no further action is required, then nothing further will occur. If the complaint is supported, the request of the complainant for action should be evaluated. This action might be additional training, a written apology, or if serious enough, even suspension or termination from the agency. As with any issue, no action should be taken until all aspects have been thoroughly evaluated. Once a decision is made about the issue, it is important to let the complainant know about the outcome. This is certainly okay if the situation does not involve a personnel matter. It is important to let the complainant know the issue has been addressed, but not the specific outcome for the member involved. Thank them for their concern in bringing the issue to light. If the issue deals with a policy or procedure, then the complainant should know that their bringing to light an issue is appreciated by the organization so that improvements can be made. If the complaint comes from the general public, it is very important that you be fully involved in the process to address their concerns. You must take notes and be an active listener. Don't be insincere in your remarks to the citizen. They are your customer and they expect good customer service at all times. This service could be a simple courtesy shown to a patient, bedside manner, or the type of care provided at the scene. When addressing a citizen's concern, it is vital the EMS officer is empathetic to the citizen, and if needed, provide a reasonable explanation as to why things occurred the way they did. Historically, if you provide a rationale explanation for the actions procedures taken by the agency's member, the citizen may reconsider and withdraw their complaint. Always refer to and follow your agency's policies and procedures. If it becomes obvious that the citizen will not accept the explanation or resolution by the EMS officer, then the citizen may be referred to a supervisor or senior leadership in the agency. Before a successful conflict resolution can occur, it is very important to remove the emotions from the issue and focus on the facts of the situation. You must listen carefully so that you can fully understand where the complaint is coming from. If you can understand the complainant's concerns, then you can better identify their expectations for resolutions in the situation. EMS officers who are actively involved in field operations will routinely be in position to identify a problem and hopefully implement new policies and procedures to address an issue. Astute EMS officers will be able to work within the system to implement new policies for the agency. Once a problem has been identified and the recommendations for policy change has been evaluated using problem-solving techniques, the next step is to prepare a written proposal to the supervisor, review committee, or agency chief for consideration and implementation. Once a new policy is ready for implementation, it is very important that the EMS officer clearly communicates the new or amended policy to all subordinates and obtain their buy-in and compliance. As with any new policy, it is important for the continuous review to occur to ensure that the policy is successful. Keep in mind that change seldom comes easy. Be prepared for questions and undermine of successful implementation. Refer to and follow your EMS agency's procedures and guidelines before considering implementation of a new procedure. The old saying of "the customer is always right" has a lot of validity for providing EMS service to the community. We are, after all, there for welfare and safety of our respective communities. When addressing community service and satisfaction, we must keep our focus on the facts and fix problems as quickly as possible. Every agency must do everything possible to learn what the public expects from an EMS agency and work diligently to implement those innovations into their operations.